My boyfriend dumped me the night before my birthday. I made it the turning point of my life, but I never expected the message he sent a year later. His name was Jeremy, and we'd been together since sophomore year of college. 4 years of planning our future together. He was going to join his uncle's architecture firm. I'd work at my family's restaurant until we saved enough to open our own fusion place. We had names picked out for our kids. We'd already looked at houses in the suburbs with good school districts. The night before my 23rd birthday, he took me to our spot by the lake, the same place where he'd first told me he loved me 3 years earlier. I wore the blue dress he liked, the one he'd bought me for our anniversary. I thought he was proposing. My hands were shaking the entire drive. I'd even gotten my nails done. Instead, he said he'd been accepted to a graduate program in Copenhagen. He was leaving in 3 weeks. He'd known for 2 months but waited to tell me. Waited until it was too late for me to process, to discuss, to plan together. Come with me, he said, like it was simple. Like I could just pack up my entire life. I can't just abandon my family's restaurant, I replied, my voice already breaking. My parents are counting on me. We talked about this. You said you were staying local. Plans change. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And what about us? Isn't that once in a lifetime? He looked out at the water, not at me. If you loved me, you'd come. If you loved me, you wouldn't make me choose. Then I guess we want different things, he said flatly. Like 4 years could be dismissed in one sentence. Like the apartment we'd been about to sign a lease on together meant nothing. Like every promise we'd made was just noise. Just like that, 4 years ended. On my birthday, I woke up alone in my apartment, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I should just stay in bed forever. My phone was flooded with messages. Happy birthday texts from friends, my sister, co-workers, but nothing from him. Not a text, not a call, not even a pathetic happy birthday to soften the blow. My mom brought over cake, the same strawberry cake she'd made every year since I was 6. I couldn't eat a bite. She sat on my bed, stroking my hair while I finally cried. Not delicate tears. Ugly, choking sobs that made my ribs hurt. He's not worth this, she said. Then why does it hurt so much? She didn't have an answer for that. For 2 weeks, I was a ghost. I called in sick to the restaurant, claiming food poisoning, then the flu. I stopped showering. My hair became a matted nest. I lived on sleeve crackers and tap water because the thought of actual food made me nauseous. I watched the same episode of a cooking show on repeat, not really seeing it. Just noise to fill the silence. My roommate Bridget finally had enough. She banged on my bedroom door until I opened it. You smell like death, she said bluntly. If you don't get in the shower right now, I'm calling your mother. I'm fine. You're not fine. You're scaring me. When's the last time you ate real food? I couldn't remember. She made me scrambled eggs while I showered. I cried under the water, watching a week's worth of grime swirl down the drain. The eggs tasted like cardboard, but I forced them down because Bridget stood there watching until I finished. You know what the best revenge is? She asked. Living well? No, living better. Being so successful that he chokes on it. Something about those words stuck. That night, I looked at myself in the mirror and barely recognized the hollow-eyed woman staring back. My hair was matted even after washing. I'd lost 8 pounds I didn't have to lose. My skin was gray. My eyes were ringed with purple. That's when I decided. If he could chase his dreams across an ocean, I could chase mine. The next morning, I walked into my parents' restaurant and quit. It was a Tuesday lunch shift, relatively slow. My father was in the back office doing paperwork. My mother was prepping banchan at the front station. I'm not coming back after today, I said. My mother's knife stilled. What do you mean? I'm applying to culinary school. In New York. Because of that boy? My father appeared in the doorway, his face already darkening. Because of me. I've been working here since I was 14. I never chose this. You chose it for me. We built this for you, my mother said, her voice breaking. For you and your sister. So you'd have something. I know, and I'm grateful. But this isn't what I want. My father's face went through several emotions before settling on anger. So you're going to throw away everything we've given you? For what? To play chef in some fancy restaurant? I'm not playing. I'm serious about this. You're serious about running away, he said coldly. That's what this is. Running from responsibility, from family, from obligation. Maybe I am running, but I'm also running towards something. Can't you see that? My mother was crying now, and something in me cracked, but I didn't take it back. I couldn't. If you leave, my father said, don't expect us to support you. We won't pay for this fantasy. I'm not asking you to. I walked out before either of them could say anything else. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely unlock my car. My sister called before I even made it home. Mom's hysterical. Dad's throwing things. What did you do? I quit. Because of Jeremy? Because I hate working there. I've always hated it. I was just too afraid to say it. She was quiet for a long moment. Good. You should have left years ago. That was the last supportive word I heard from my family for months. I applied to culinary school in New York the next day. Wrote my application essay at 2 a.m., fueled by spite and leftover scrambled eggs. I talked about fusion, about honoring tradition while creating something new, about finding my own voice. I submitted it before I could overthink it. 3 weeks later, I got my acceptance letter. partial scholarship based on my essay, and a practical exam where I'd cooked 3 dishes that apparently impressed them. I'd need to cover room and board and the rest of tuition myself. I had $4,200 saved from working at the restaurant. It wasn't enough. It wasn't even close. But I was going anyway. I sold everything I owned that wasn't essential. My TV, my laptop, my barely used textbooks from college, the jewelry Jeremy had given me. I picked up a weekend job at a catering company. I moved out of my apartment and crashed on Bridget's couch for 2 months, paying her what I could. My parents didn't call. My sister would text occasionally, updates about the restaurant, carefully neutral information that avoided mentioning our parents' feelings. Then one night, my mother called. "Your father is still angry," she said without preamble. "I know, but I understand why you're going. I don't agree with how you did it, but I understand." I started crying. "I'm sorry I hurt you." "I know, but you hurt yourself more if you stay. I saw your face every day at that restaurant. You looked like I felt when I was your age before I got trapped. You're not trapped. Maybe not anymore, but I was once. And I don't want that for you." She sent me $1,500 the next week. Didn't tell my father. Just wrote, "For emergencies," in the memo line. I moved to New York 3 months after Jeremy left, September, when the city was just starting to cool down. I arrived with $2,400, a suitcase, a duffel bag of kitchen knives I'd been collecting since culinary school, and absolutely no plan beyond my first day of classes. My apartment was in Queens, a 4th-floor walk-up with no elevator. I shared a 600-square-foot space with 2 other girls, both dancers who were never home. We had 1 bathroom, a kitchen the size of a closet, and paper-thin walls. My bedroom was technically a converted closet. I could touch both walls if I stretched out my arms. But it was mine. Classes started the next week. I was terrified I'd be behind, that everyone else would be more skilled, more prepared. And I was right. Half my class had gone to prep schools with culinary programs. They knew terms I'd never heard. They could brunoise in their sleep. I stayed late every night, practicing cuts until my fingers bled. I watched YouTube videos on technique. I borrowed textbooks from the library and studied until my eyes burned. The first year was brutal. I worked breakfast shifts at a diner in Midtown starting at 5 a.m. The owner, a Greek man named Theo, paid me under the table and let me take home leftover pastries. I'd go straight to class after my shift, smelling like hash browns and coffee. Then I'd attend lectures and practicals until 6 p.m. At night, I prepped at a French bistro in the West Village until midnight or later. The head chef was a temperamental asshole who threw pans when you messed up, but the pay was better and I learned more in 3 months there than I'd learned in years at my parents' restaurant. Some days I got 3 hours of sleep. I lived on ramen, day-old bread from the bistro, and the sheer determination not to prove my father right. I burned myself constantly. My hands were covered in cuts and scars from rushing, from exhaustion, from learning the hard way that hot pans stay hot and sharp knives don't care if you're tired. I cried in walk-in freezers when the pressure got too intense. When Chef Qley would scream that my brunoise was uneven, that my sauce was broken, that I was wasting his time and ingredients. When I'd burn myself for the 3rd time in a shift and just want to quit everything. But I was alive in a way I'd never been. Every cut, every burn, every exhausted muscle was mine. I'd chosen this pain. It wasn't obligation or guilt or someone else's dream. It was mine. My roommates thought I was insane. "You work 3 jobs for cooking school?" one of them asked. "Why not just work at Starbucks?" "Because I need to be in kitchens. I need to learn." They didn't get it, but I didn't need them to. 3 months in, my father called. First time since I'd left. "Your mother says you're doing well." "She called you?" "She calls me every week, begs me to talk to you, says I'm being stubborn." "Are you?" "Yes, but so are you." I didn't argue. "I'm not going to apologize for being angry," he said. "You left during our busy season. You left your sister to pick up your shifts. You abandoned your family." "I didn't abandon anyone. I chose myself for once." "That's the same thing." We didn't speak again for 6 months. By month 8, I'd managed to land an apprenticeship under Chef Helena. She was a James Beard nominee, known for her innovative Asian-European fusion. Her restaurant, Sycamore, had a 6-month waiting list for reservations. The interview was terrifying. She had me cook 3 dishes while she watched in silence. Then she tasted each one, her face revealing nothing. "Your technique needs work," she finally said. "Your brunoise is inconsistent. Your sauce broke twice. You over-seasoned the fish." My heart sank. "But you have instincts. Your flavor combinations are interesting. You're not afraid to take risks. And you didn't fall apart when I stared at you for 40 minutes while you cooked. Is that a yes? It's a trial. 2 weeks. If you can keep up, I'll keep you." I kept up. Those 2 weeks were the hardest of my life. Chef Helena worked me like she was trying to break me. 16-hour days. Every task done twice because the first time wasn't good enough. She'd make me redo my mise en place if a single dice was off by a millimeter. "If you're going to work in my kitchen," she said, "you're going to do it right." I redid my mise en place 7 times that first week, but I learned more in those 2 weeks than I had in the previous 8 months. She taught me to taste properly, to understand how flavors built and balanced. She showed me techniques I'd only read about. She pushed me past what I thought were my limits. At the end of the trial, she offered me a permanent position. "You'll start at the bottom," she warned. "Grunt work, prep, cleaning, whatever I need. You won't be plating dishes for at least 6 months. I'll take it." I quit my other 2 jobs and moved to full-time at Sycamore. The pay was barely enough to cover my rent and food, but I didn't care. I was learning from one of the best. 6 months later, she promoted me to sous chef. I was 23, the youngest person in that position she'd ever had. When she told me, I actually thought she was joking. "You have the best palate I've seen in a decade," she said. "Don't waste it." That night, I called my mother and cried, happy tears this time. "I'm so proud of you," she said. "Is Dad there?" A pause. "He's listening. Tell him I said hi." "Tell him yourself." My father's gruff voice came on the line. "You're the one who's too important now to call your own father." "I'm not too important. I just didn't think you wanted to hear from me. I'm angry. That doesn't mean I stopped caring." It wasn't an apology, but it was something. On my 24th birthday, exactly 1 year after Jeremy left, I was prepping for the biggest service of my career. A food critic from the Times was coming. We didn't know which service, which meant every night for the past week had been perfect execution. But tonight felt different. Chef Helena was more focused than usual. She'd barely spoken during prep. "She's here," Theo, one of our line cooks, whispered during service. "Table 12. I saw her card when she paid last time." My hands stayed steady as I plated each dish, the muscle memory now automatic. Every element perfectly placed. Every sauce the right consistency. Every protein cooked exactly to temp. The review came out 3 days later. Sycamore continues to push boundaries. The miso brown butter scallops, developed by sous chef, my name, showcase a stunning understanding of how to honor tradition while creating something entirely new. Each element worked in harmony, crispy, caramelized exterior giving way to butter soft interior, the miso adding depth without overwhelming the delicate sweetness of the scallop. This is the future of fusion cuisine. Chef Helena framed it and hung it in the kitchen with my name underneath in bold letters. That night, I was in my apartment, still riding the high, when my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown international number. I stared at it for a full minute before opening it. I knew. Somehow, I knew. The message was long, rambling. "I know I have no right to reach out. I know it's been a year and I have no excuse for the silence. But I've been following your career through mutual friends. I saw the Times review. I saw your name. I'm so proud of you. I always knew you were talented, but seeing you succeed like this is incredible. Copenhagen hasn't been what I expected. The program is prestigious, but it's cold here. Isolating. I don't have the connections I thought I would. I miss home. I miss you. I made a mistake leaving. I see that now. I'm coming back to the States next month. I'd love to see you. Maybe we could try again? You've become everything you were meant to be, and I'd love to be part of that. Jeremy." I sat on my fire escape, reading it over and over until the words blurred. A year ago, this message would have been everything. I would have dropped everything to take him back. I'd spent months imagining this exact scenario. Him realizing he'd made a mistake, coming back, us picking up where we left off. But now, I looked at the city lights stretching endlessly before me. I thought about the calluses on my hands from knife work, the way Chef Helena had nodded at me after tonight's service, the closest thing to praise she ever gave. The apartment I'd finally moved into alone last month. Tiny, but mine. No roommates, no compromises. I typed back, "I'm happy you're doing well, but I'm not the same person you left." I hit send before I could overthink it. His response came within minutes. "I know you've changed. That's what I love about you. You became everything you were meant to be." Something about that phrasing bothered me, like he was taking credit for my transformation, like leaving me had been some gift instead of the most painful thing I'd ever experienced. I didn't respond. Over the next 3 weeks, the messages kept coming. At first, they were sweet, nostalgic. He'd remind me of inside jokes. "Remember when we got lost trying to find that restaurant? Our favorite coffee shop. The trip we took to Vermont where it rained the entire weekend and we just stayed in bed." Then they became more insistent. "I bought a plane ticket. I'll be in New York on the 15th. I'd love to take you to dinner. There's this new place in Tribeca that got amazing reviews. I've already contacted my uncle about the architecture job. He's excited to have me back. We can pick up where we left off, better than before because now we've both grown." I didn't respond to most of them. I was busy. Chef Helena had started letting me develop new dishes for the spring menu. I was working on a concept that combined my family's Korean recipes with French technique: Samjang butter, gochugaru spiced duck, kimchi beret blanc. It was the most creatively fulfilled I'd ever been, but the messages kept coming. 3-4 times a day. Screenshots of apartments he was looking at in Brooklyn. Restaurant recommendations. Memories I'd forgotten we had. Then Jeremy showed up at the restaurant. I was in the middle of service calling out orders when Theo poked his head into the kitchen. "Someone's asking for you. Says he's an old friend." My hands went still over the sauté pan. I knew immediately who it was. "Tell him I'm working." Theo hesitated. "He said he flew in from Denmark just to see you. He's really insistent, kind of making a scene." Chef Helena looked up from her station. She didn't say anything, but her eyes were sharp. She'd heard me mention Jeremy exactly once months ago, when I'd explained why I'd come to New York alone, why I'd cried in the walk-in on my first week. "Handle your business," she said quietly. But make it quick. We've got a full house. I untied my apron and washed my hands. My heart was hammering. I didn't want to see him. I wasn't ready. I found Jeremy sitting at the bar, looking exactly like I remembered. Same dark hair, same easy smile, same way of holding himself like he belonged everywhere. He'd dressed up, button-down shirt, expensive watch I didn't recognize. He stood when he saw me, arms open like he expected a hug. I didn't move. You look amazing, he said, his smile widening. This place is incredible. I can't believe you're working here. Sous chef at 24, that's insane. What are you doing here, Jeremy? I told you I was coming back. I wanted to surprise you. You should have called first. I did call. You stopped responding. I'm in the middle of service, I said, trying to keep my voice level. I don't have time for this. Then after, he pressed. Let me take you out after you close. We can talk properly. Really talk. Behind me, I could hear the controlled chaos of the kitchen. Chef Helena calling out orders, the sizzle of pans, the rhythm I'd spent a year learning. I close at midnight, I said. I'll be exhausted. I'll wait. Something in his tone made it clear he wasn't asking. He'd flown across an ocean. He expected payoff. Fine, I said. But just coffee. Nothing more. His smile returned, triumphant, like he'd won something. I went back to the kitchen, my hands shaking. Chef Helena caught my eye but didn't comment. For the rest of service, I moved mechanically, my mind somewhere else. When we finally closed at 12:30, I found Jeremy still sitting at the bar. He'd been there for over 4 hours, nursing 2 drinks and chatting with Bridget, our bartender. She gave me a look that said, be careful. We went to an all-night diner 3 blocks away, the kind of place I'd worked at when I first moved to the city. The irony wasn't lost on me. Jeremy ordered coffee and pie. I just got water. My stomach was in knots. So, he said, leaning back in the booth, tell me everything. There's not much to tell. I went to culinary school, got the apprenticeship. I'm working. Don't be modest. The Times review is incredible. You're talented. Really talented. I work hard. You always did. He reached across the table, trying to take my hand. I pulled back. His smile faltered. Are you still angry? I'm not angry. We're different people now. I know. That's what makes this perfect. We've both grown. We can come back together as equals now. The word equals stuck in my throat. Jeremy, what exactly do you want? He looked confused by the question. I want us to try again. I want what we had. We can't have what we had. I'm not the same person. I know. That's what I'm saying. You're better now, stronger, more independent, more successful. And you're the same, I realized out loud. You haven't changed at all. His face darkened. That's not fair. I've been pursuing my dreams, just like you. No, you've been pursuing the plan you always had. You went to grad school in Copenhagen because that was always the plan. Prestigious degree, impressive resume. You're coming back because Copenhagen didn't work out exactly how you wanted, because your program wasn't what you thought it would be. You're here because I'm suddenly more interesting now that I've succeeded. That's not true, isn't it? I leaned forward. When we were together, did you ever once ask me what I actually wanted? Did you ever consider that maybe I didn't want to run my family's restaurant? That maybe I had dreams that weren't convenient for your timeline? You never said anything, because I didn't know how. I was so busy being what you needed, what my parents needed, that I forgot to figure out what I needed. Jeremy sat back, his expression cooling. So this is about blame now? About making me the villain in your success story? No, this is about honesty. You left me because I didn't fit into your plans anymore. Now you're back because suddenly I do. I left because you weren't willing to take a risk. You chose obligation over us. And you're still choosing yourself, I said quietly. You always have. The silence stretched between us. Jeremy's jaw was tight, his hands clenched around his coffee mug. I made a mistake, he finally said. I'm trying to fix it. You can't fix what we had. It's gone. I'm not angry about it anymore. But I'm not going backwards either. So that's it? 4 years mean nothing? They meant everything. They taught me what I didn't want. I stood up, leaving money on the table for my water. I need to go. I have early prep tomorrow. Wait, Jeremy grabbed my wrist. Not hard, but firm enough that I stopped. Just give me a chance. One real conversation. Not here, not at your work. Somewhere we can actually talk. I looked down at his hand on my wrist. A year ago, his touch would have felt like home. Now it just felt like pressure. Let go, Jeremy. He did, immediately. Sorry, I flew here for you. I didn't ask you to. Would it have mattered if you had? Would you have wanted me to come? The question hung in the air. Honest answer? A year ago? Yes. 6 months ago, maybe. Now? No, I said. I wouldn't. I walked out of the diner and didn't look back. I half expected him to follow, but he didn't. The streets were empty, that strange quiet that settles over New York at 1 a.m. I walked the 20 blocks back to my apartment, needing the time to think. When I got home, I had 3 missed calls from Jeremy and a long text message. I understand you need space, but I'm not giving up on us. I'll be in the city for 2 weeks. When you're ready to really talk, call me. I love you. I always have. I stared at that last line for a long time. The thing about Jeremy was that he probably believed it. He probably did love me, in his own way. But his love required me to be a supporting character in his story, and I'd spent too long fighting for my own narrative to go back now. I didn't respond. I went to bed, set my alarm for 5 a.m., and tried not to think about it. The next morning, I showed up to prep and threw myself into work. Chef Helena was developing a new tasting menu, and she wanted my input on the third course. We spent 3 hours testing different approaches to a carrot dish: roasted, pickled, pureed, raw, each iteration bringing us closer to something special. "You're distracted," Chef Helena finally said, as I oversalted a reduction for the second time. "I'm fine. The man from last night, the one who waited 4 hours, it wasn't a question. Ex-boyfriend," I admitted. "He wants to get back together. And you? I don't know. I think I don't want to. But there's this part of me that remembers how happy we used to be, how easy things were." Chef Helena wiped her hands on her apron and looked at me directly. "When I was your age, I had a boyfriend, Luca. He was charming, successful, supportive. When I got my first head chef position in San Francisco, he threw me a party, invited everyone we knew, made speeches about how proud he was, how he'd always known I'd be successful." She paused, tasting the reduction I'd ruined and dumping it down the drain. 6 months later, when I got an offer at a restaurant in Paris, a Michelin-starred kitchen, the kind of opportunity that comes once in a lifetime, he asked me to turn it down. He'd just made partner at his firm. We'd built a life in San Francisco. Our friends were there. His family was there. He loved me, he said, but his love required me to stay small enough to fit into his world. "What did you do?" "I went to Paris. Best decision I ever made. I learned everything there. It's where I developed my style, where I learned to trust my instincts. And yes, I spent 2 years wondering if I'd made a mistake, if I'd thrown away something real for my ego." "And?" I asked. And I realized his version of love was about ownership. He wanted me successful, but only to a point. Only as long as it reflected well on him, as long as it didn't inconvenience his plans. Real love makes room for growth. It doesn't require you to choose. I started a new reduction, measuring more carefully this time. My hands were steadier. "He says he's changed," I said quietly. "Has he? Or has he just realized you're worth more now?" The words hit harder than I expected, because that's exactly what it felt like. Jeremy hadn't come back because he'd grown. He'd come back because I had. That evening, Jeremy showed up at the restaurant again. This time, I refused to leave the kitchen. I sent Bridget out with a message. I was working. He needed to stop coming by. He didn't leave. He sat at the bar through the entire service. 3 hours. When we closed, he was waiting outside the staff entrance. "You won't even talk to me?" he said as I tried to walk past. "We talked yesterday. For 5 minutes in a diner. That's not fair." "What's not fair?" I said, stopping to face him, "is you showing up at my workplace repeatedly. You're making this uncomfortable for everyone. I just want you to hear me out. Really hear me." I did. The answer is no. "You haven't even asked about my life, about what I've been doing in Copenhagen. You're so focused on your own success that you can't see I'm trying to be part of it." "That's exactly the problem, Jeremy. You want to be part of my success, not part of my life. There's a difference." "That's not—" "When did my birthday become about you?" I interrupted. "You dumped me the night before I turned 23. The next day I woke up alone, and you didn't call, didn't text, nothing. For a year I heard nothing from you. Not on holidays, not when I posted about culinary school, not when I moved to New York. Then the second I get some recognition, some success, you're back, acting like we're meant to be, acting like you have some claim to what I've built. I've been following your career the whole time. I've been supporting you from afar. Following me on social media isn't support. It's surveillance. And it's creepy." His expression hardened. "I can't believe you're being this cold. I thought you'd be happy to see me. I thought you'd missed me. Why would you think that?" "Because you loved me." His voice rose, echoing off the buildings. "You were planning to marry me. You said I was your future. I was 19 when I said that. I'm different now. So you used me, used my leaving as motivation, and now you don't need me anymore." The accusation stunned me silent for a moment. "That's not what happened, isn't it? You got what you wanted. The career, the recognition, the independence, and I'm just collateral damage. You left me," I said, my voice shaking now. "You ended it. You chose your path. You don't get to come back a year later and act like I owe you anything." "I chose wrong," he shouted. "I'm admitting that. I made a mistake and I'm trying to fix it." "Why won't you let me fix it?" "Because you can't. You can't fix this, Jeremy. We're not broken dishes that you can glue back together. We're different people who want different things." "I want you." "No," I said firmly. "You want the version of me that needed you. That depended on you. That made you feel important. That version doesn't exist anymore." I walked away before he could respond. My heart was hammering, hands trembling. I made it 3 blocks before I had to stop, leaning against a building to catch my breath. My phone rang. "Jeremy." I declined the call. It rang again. Declined. Then a text. "Please, just one more conversation. I'm desperate here." I blocked his number. The next morning, flowers arrived at the restaurant. 2 dozen red roses with a card. "I'll wait as long as it takes. I know you still love me, Jay." Chef Helena took one look at them and asked, "Should I be concerned?" No, he's not dangerous, just persistent. Persistence